It started.
We started, and we just watched the Star Wars Episode VII Trailer 2, and we are so excited. That's why we're bringing to you, Trailer Dose, this special
episode of Star Wars.
Episode of Origins and Adaptations on Star Wars. That is Star Wars based entirely. Star Wars based.
It's pretty good. We also apologize for the 2-week delay. Stuff happens. Life happens.
We have lives, okay?
We have lives.
I know it sounds melodramatic, but it is also true.
We are pretty melodramatic.
Well, first of all, I just want to say that the Star Wars hype right now is not without great cause. There's a reason for it.
Yeah.
I think some people, like the naysayers and the haters, might be like, those guys,
blasphemers,
the guys who post the memes, who post the memes of Emperor Palpatine that say, "Good, let the hype flow through you." It's like, yeah, maybe if the trailer was totally weak or average, but this trailer is fantastic.
It was good.
Yeah,
it stirred things in my belly.
Yeah,
that made me excited.
Well, first of all, we kind of want to touch on a lot of things about Star Wars this episode, but I think the main thing I personally wanted to convey or get out there to the listeners of this program is that this trailer kind of it seemed to light the flame under the butts of a lot of Star Wars fans who may have been a little bit on the fence.
Yeah, definitely, especially after the handle thing with the saber, the red saber.
Yeah, people cared a lot about the hilt that Kylo Ren had.
Yeah, and they're like, what? Blah, 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 blah. And then the internet was just in flames about like how this is going to be terrible, and because of small creative choices. And then
those are the types of things that truly don't matter. You can take liberties with those things. Yeah,
and so after this trailer came out, it kind of seemed like all those naysaying things just kind of went away. Like, I haven't heard anything about, like, this is going to suck because of this. It's not like, this was my reaction, and it has all these people, like, super excited.
You still have those people who are like, oh, yeah, the new Stormtrooper helmets look like duck faces. I'm like, if you're really, really trying...
a lot more Star Wars haters than I do, apparently.
I've just seen this on Facebook. There's so many Star Wars pages, and these people colored in the facial mask part of the Stormtrooper helmet, and they colored it in yellow, and it's like, see it? I'm like, I guess if I'm looking really, really hard and I'm being a complete dork about it, then I see it.
It's like, if you take anything, you can make anything.
People, like, I mean, we all, as fans, have some level of snobbery.
Forces.
But if you can't get past little things that just, like, it's not fun anymore. So the whole point is this trailer's fun, and it kind of, well, for me, it sort of made me think back to how I reacted to Star Wars when I first saw it as a little kid. And I haven't really felt that way with any of the other ones, and I wanted to feel that way when Episode 1 first came out.
Yeah.
But I saw the trailer, and I was like, well, this looks different. I'll give it a chance. Of course, I didn't respond to it anywhere near the level of excitement as I responded to the original 3 when I saw them as a kid.
Yeah.
But I'm curious how you felt, Andrew.
Well, I don't exactly remember my first time I viewed the Star Wars movies. Mm-hmm. Really, I mean, they were in my family for a long time. We had the originals, like, on VHS. We had the VHS, like, theatrical cut. So
same.
Yeah, so it's like, I just remember watching them from time to time. And then when Episode 1 came out, that's really when I started getting back into watching them, and I could see there was a level of difference between the two series.
Yeah.
And so even as a kid, I was able to appreciate the originals more than the prequels, just because there was a lot going wrong. And I will admit, because I was a child, that my favorite character in Episode 1 was Jar Jar Binks when I was a kid.
At the time?
Yeah, but I think that's the reason, and everyone talks about it, is I think he was every kid's favorite, just because he was stupid. Like, he was the dumbling idiot that everyone loved to laugh at. And as a kid, pretty much anything's funny. So I enjoyed it. Now I go back and I go, this isn't... Why'd I think this was ever funny? But I just remember being a kid. So I thought my thoughts on the trailer were like, I thought it was awesome and amazing. I was super excited, and that's like, you came home right as I finished watching it, and it's all like, you need to watch this, Cody. You need to watch this.
Yeah, and I didn't know what you meant, because basically here's the story, and I'm treating this as if it were some really big, monumental, important thing, and it is. So humor me for just one quick second. I got home from, I think, a haircut or something.
I think it was
random.
a chiropractor.
Chiropractor.
Massage, maybe?
Some chiropractor.
It was like 11 o'clock in the morning.
It was some appointment that I had, and anyways, I got home, and Andrew, you were like, Cody, you're gonna get down here and watch this. I'm like, what's this? And you go, just get down here and watch this.
I remember, and you go, can I eat first? And I go, no.
Yeah, oh yeah, that's right. I got coffee and food. But anyway, and boy, was I glad you sat me down for that, because I was like, I needed to watch that on a big screen.
Yeah.
I'm glad the first time I saw it wasn't on my Android.
Yeah.
Probably was for you.
Nope.
Nope, you watched it on the big screen.
Yep.
So anyways, for me, it's been, I think, 17 or 18 times now that I've rewatched.
Oh gosh. Every time. Here's the thing about the Star Wars, even the teaser, every time someone's mentioned it, I have to go back and rewatch it.
Yeah, absolutely.
I haven't done that with any I've never done that with any
Do you catch new things every time you watch it?
I did the first few times.
Mm-hmm.
After a while, it just, to me, it was just, I need to watch it. It's like a drug.
See, you know what I just noticed when we watched it just before is that the logo on that big banner behind that huge cluster of stormtroopers is not the classic Imperial logo. It's something else.
Yeah, the Empire's evolved into something.
Yeah, and we don't know yet what that is.
No,
but that's what makes it exciting.
Yeah, especially with we saw that with the redesign of the Stormtroopers' helmets in the first teaser, and then we see the cool captain, like, looking...
The chromed out Stormtrooper with the cloak.
Yeah, so it's like, ooh, I wonder what he is.
You know what the rumors are about that character, right?
That he's a Dark Trooper?
No, what I heard was that was the gal from Game of Thrones who was cast to be in this movie.
Which one? There's a lot of girls.
The girl... Oh, I don't know who... Well, they've announced who it is. I don't know her name.
Okay.
She's not one of the younger, more attractive, like, risque-looking ones in Game of Thrones.
I just haven't heard that. So.
I don't know who it is.
Okay.
That sounded really malinformed on Game of Thrones. That's because I'm not a Game of Thrones watcher.
He is malinformed on Game of Thrones.
I have watched the first season. That's pretty much it. But anyways, so it is a female character playing that, is what the rumor is. But I don't know who it is. I can't remember her name.
Why? That's just an assumption at this point.
But apparently, she has been announced. I forget her name, but there is a actress from Game of Thrones who is announced to be in this, and they're saying that's who she is playing, is this high-ranking Stormtrooper officer.
Oh, that's cool.
Regardless, it looks amazing, and I think the thing that stuck out to me above all else was the fighter battle scenes where you have the TIE fighters and the various other Y-Wing, B-Wing, X-Wing
I love
ships.
The X-Wings across the lake was pretty cool.
Yeah, that's really neat.
Yeah.
What stuck out to me about it was, there were still maybe more fighters than you would have had in Episode 4, back when they had a really small budget and they only had could afford a small squadron.
But it's still a smaller squadron compared to the prequels.
The prequels had too many. If you really pay attention to the prequels, none of the squadrons are flying in any sort of formation.
Yeah.
And it's so unrealistic if you really pay any attention to the idea that these ships would all just be crashing into one another left and right.
Yeah.
And this one actually looks like the X-Wings are flying across the lake in formation. And it makes sense. It looks a little bit more self-aware than the prequels were. I think a big problem with the prequels was that there were moments that were just silly and they weren't trying to be.
Yeah, whereas anything with Anakin was just silly. So
yeah, I was thinking about that one scene in, I believe, Episode 2, where Anakin's trying to impress Padme, and so he passes her the apple, and he cuts it, and he goes, "If Master Obi-Wan had seen me doing that, he would have been very grumpy." Well, why? No, he wouldn't. Yeah. It's like he just said that, and Obi-Wan wouldn't be grumpy about that. It's just something silly they had him say just for no reason. And I'm excited that in the trailer you don't see anything where it's like this is totally unnecessary. Granted, people have also said that they're just trying to show us what we want to see.
I mean, that's probably the case. But here's the thing is, to say that we haven't seen the whole movie, that is true, but I also have faith in J.J. Abrams. And if there is that one or two thing in a movie, I mean, I can't fault them. Because there's just so much that you can put into a movie. If there's one scene that just doesn't take with other people, that's totally fine. The problem with the prequels is it was just filled with it. Filled with it. I mean, there's so many, like, lines people say that are making fun of Anakin for the lines he says. It's like almost everything that comes out of his mouth is just something you can use to make fun of him.
Yeah. It's really more obvious when you go back and you watch the prequels over again, and it's like, I didn't like it that much at the time. I thought it was okay. His acting was spotty, but if you go back and rewatch it, you're like, holy crap, most of his lines are really poorly written.
Yeah, poorly
written. It wasn't
written.
just his fault. I mean, I didn't like him as Anakin Skywalker. I won't say I did, but man, his lines that he had written for him were just
almost everyone's lines.
Almost every line almost every line in that movie was horrendous.
Yeah,
it was not a great script as far as dialogue is concerned.
It was pretty bad.
What I like about this movie is that it looks very colorful.
It looks lively. Like, even though there was a lot of color and things in the prequels, it just seemed like it didn't have a soul.
Too much CG will do that.
Yeah.
When you have some guy looking at another guy and they're actually both in the room, there's more emotion. I just felt bad for Ewan McGregor watching him in the prequels because he's trying to act alongside lifeless CGI characters.
Almost every character he interacts with is CG.
Yeah.
Except for Anakin. Well,
remember in the Honest trailer when they say Ewan McGregor, a great actor forced to act along lifeless CGI characters like Hayden Christensen, which is awesome. One of the meanest things I've ever heard anyone say, but it's kind of true.
It's kind of true. I mean, he had no emotion at all.
Is it weird that I was surprised Jango Fett wasn't just CGI? I mean,
was he not?
No, he was a real guy.
When he took his mask off.
I don't know. He probably was inside the costume, wasn't he?
I mean, anytime they did any jetpack stuff.
That's got to be CG.
Yeah, that was probably CG.
But, okay, let's steer into a new territory as far as this is concerned. Let's rewind back to the little shorts that JJ released. One with the X-Wing and the little droid.
And
cool. One with the practical creature.
Yeah, the little...
That's carrying those chicken bird-esque...
Yeah, the little farmer dude.
Really interesting.
Yeah, what surprised me about the X-Wing is just how detailed it was.
Yeah.
How much detail they put into it, how big it was, which was insane. I just never really thought about how big those could be. And then you have J.J. Abrams standing next to it, and the thing's just huge. The guy just casually walks up, and like the cockpit opens. It's like, oh, this is
the guy getting on the ladder.
Yeah, this is it.
Cockpit.
Like this is a thing. And then you have the little droid like go across, and you're like, oh.
The little BB-8. That is the droid's name, right? The new droid.
The droid? Soccer ball one.
The soccer ball droid. Yeah, I like that thing a lot. Yeah. It's a cool practical trick the way it rolls. Yeah. That was really interesting when I saw that YouTube video. I think you showed that to me.
Yeah, there was a video of people showing how the droid would actually work if it was, like, how they probably did it, which was, like, I think it was some kind of magnet thing.
Was it a magnet? Okay.
Yeah, and it had a little ball on top, and it had the bigger ball on the bottom, and it was rolling with the two items.
It was just really interesting because, as far as I know, this is the first droid that doesn't have that isn't either operated by some other controlling mechanism or having an actor placed inside it.
I think it's remote control.
It is remote control.
Yeah, I was saying magnets.
I thought it was set in motion, but it isn't set in motion by someone tossing it.
As far as I know, I'd have to rewatch the video. I thought it was remote control. If it is, I would say they're going to do remote control just so that they don't have to be tossing the thing over and over and over again. Especially in sand, it probably is difficult.
That's true. But in the video that you showed me, it is someone passing it back and forth.
I think so, yeah.
And it's like, yeah, well, That's pretty cool. So I'm excited for the practical effects.
Yes, that is a huge thing.
Along with
prequels didn't have.
Sorry to interrupt you. The prequels didn't have that, and then alongside it, J.J. Abrams' Star Trek movies gave us these great visual effects, these CG effects that were very tasteful.
Yeah.
And they weren't trying to do more than they could handle with it.
No, and which is funny, when he announced that he was doing Star Wars, I thought back, and my first thought when I saw the Star Trek movies was, this guy should do a Star Wars movie.
Oh, yeah.
Just because it was Star Trek and had its Star Wars Trek elements to it,
yeah,
but it was very fantasy, which Star Trek is usually on the harder side of science, and it's all like,
oh yeah,
we're going to outer space to find these aliens, or we're going to do diplomatic political engagement, and it's like phasers, and like just like it's kind of straight and narrow, where Star Wars is this vast universe where there's lightsabers, there's the Force, there's laser guns, and there's space battles, and it's not like space battles where it's like doo.
Yeah, if you notice in Star Trek, a lot of their gizmos, they mention algorithms and engineering.
Yeah.
In Star Wars, they make up names. As far as I know, a power converter isn't something we actually have in real life, and I thought that was pretty clever. Going to Tashi Station to pick up some power converters.
Okay, I have to tell you something later, but...
Okay, we can go back to that. But I just think it's interesting how, even when it comes to the science, which they do mention little things here and there, but it's all rooted in fantasy.
Fantasy, yeah. Which, I mean, we've talked about this before, the difference between Star Trek and Star Wars is Star Trek is that more set in it's grounded a little bit more. It has that, even though it's sci-fi, it has that, oh, I forgot the name. Just set forwardness of it, where it's like, it's more intellectual. I remember
it is more straightforward.
Yeah, we compared it to things where I was talking about how I was saying, oh, Star Trek is like normal opera, where it's like it is big and it's loud, but you have this melodious to it, and it makes people, like, you have to think about it more. Yeah. Whereas Star Wars is like the rock opera. Yeah. Where it's just like, it's in your face, it's awesome, it's loud.
It's exciting.
It's exciting. I mean, you have the two different areas when you're watching Star Trek. Yes, you're excited.
In parts.
But you also have to listen to a lot of dialogue. Yeah. Which is... With Star Wars, you're sitting there, you're excited, you're going like all over the place because all this crazy stuff is happening, all these different people are on the screen. It's like if you're at a rock opera concert and you're just like going crazy. I mean, it's like if David Bowie was here doing Ziggy Stardust, that's like, it would be crazy, versus maybe going to an opera where everyone would be silent.
Yeah, I feel like Star Trek is kind of... The tone feels more intellectual. Yeah. I'm not saying that you can't be intellectual about both when you're talking about them. Yeah. You can. But I feel like Star Trek is definitely... I mean, Star Wars is one of those things that has a very broad mass appeal. Mm-hmm. Star Trek is a little more focused and niche into just the geekdom. Yeah. That is for geeks. And, you know... Us hardcore Star Wars fans, we sit somewhere next to them. Yeah. But still outside that a little bit, where it's like...
Yeah, we'll go to the same cafeteria, but we probably won't sit at their table.
Yeah. That's a good analogy. I like that. And I'm actually a huge Star Trek fan. I got into the original series my last year of college, and I watched all 3 seasons, and I love it. Yeah. And I love the movies J.J. Abrams did, which is why I'm so excited for the Star Wars movies, because... he can really make a visually spectacular film.
Yeah, I haven't... Like, my first J.J. Abrams, like, film was Cloverfield.
Oh, yeah, I never saw that one, actually.
And, like, I got so hardcore into it. Ben and I just, like, Ben went super far into it. He found every little thing about it. Because when the movie first came out, it wasn't called Cloverfield. It was, like... I want to say it was, like... 0118 it was 10 or something.
It was some coordinate or...
Well, it was a date.
Was it a date?
Yeah, it was a date. That's all it had. And it was the date the movie would come out.
Oh, for some reason when I read it, I thought it was like coordinates or something. I didn't know.
No.
Maybe it's less sci-fi than I thought it was.
Yeah, and so that's all it had, and it was just a trailer of the statue. Like, it was all the news people, and then the Statue of Liberty, like, getting hit by something.
Yeah.
And then, like, that's all you saw, and so it's like, what is this? This is so cool.
I remember the trailer. I never saw the movie.
Yeah, and so Ben and I just hugely got into it. He would read forums. They had these puzzles that you could do to unlock stuff about it. And then it was cool to do all that stuff and then watch the movie because we were able to see like the different points and the parts of it, and it was really cool to watch. So ever since then, and I know a lot of people get into J.J. Abrams because of like Lost and I want to say Alias he did. Mm-hmm. And I never watched any of those because they just didn't interest me at all. But ever since, I'm like, I'm on board with anything J.J. Abrams does.
Yeah. For me, it was just the editing and the camera style, and people make fun of his lens flares. Mm-hmm. I think it looks sweet.
Yeah.
It looks awesome.
Yeah.
But what I'm really excited for is, like we already touched on, it looks lively, it looks fun, and it looks clean.
Yeah.
Without
and not too
being
clean.
Yeah, not too clean. Not as I mean, the analogy I would say is or the analogy I would make would be that Star Wars trailer Episode VII reminds me of old Maroon 5. It's like it's pop, it's clean,
where they actually did stuff.
Yeah, but it's actually there's more going on, and it's a little more gritty, and the prequels are just over polished.
Show.
It was the George Lucas show. Whereas New Maroon 5 is the Adam Levine show.
Yeah.
And it's way too over polished. Mm-hmm. And there's so much involved with the post production that you really can't really enjoy what's going on unless that's all you like is production. Because to me, Maroon 5 right now, they've become this band that's sort of based around production over the skill of each individual member in the band.
Yeah.
And what I'm liking about this direction J.J. Abrams is taking it is that it sounds like he wants to make it about practical effects and about real people acting on a screen.
Yeah, and it's just really cool to see that he's teasing these people at us.
Yep.
Like, before...
His characters.
Yeah, the characters. I am so interested in these characters. So interested. And I don't know...
Finn, and I forget her name. Finn, I think, is the guy. Ren? Kylo Ren is the villain.
He's the Sith villain, dude?
I believe he's the...
I don't remember her name. Wait, are you sure her name's not Ren and his name's Kylo? No, Kylo Ren. No, not Ren.
No, I'm pretty sure his name is Finn.
No, I'm talking about the Sith
villain. Yeah, I honestly don't really know about that, but I'm interested to see these characters on screen because in both trailers, like we were saying when we were driving here on the way over, they look in a hurry and confused. Yeah, kind of like how we've been about Star Wars.
Yeah, it's like we want it here now, but we're also confused about who these people are because we have never seen anything about them.
But there's that scene where she takes his hand and they rush off.
Yeah, so it's like.
It's compelling. It's like, what's going to happen?
Yeah. What happened?
What happened?
What's going to happen? What's going to happen?
It totally grabs you in a way that, man, do you remember the trailers for the prequels?
No.
Because, okay, I'm sorry. I hate to dog on the prequels so much.
No, it's totally fine.
Well, everyone does it.
Everyone does it.
But I'm trying not to be everyone. I'm trying to be Cody.
It's true. You're trying to be your own man.
I'm trying to be my own man here. But I think what I'm thinking with this new trailer versus the old prequel trailers is the old prequel trailers weren't trying to capture you emotionally. Mm-hmm. This one actually is showing you the perfect combination of action sequences and emotions that you can see in each character's face. Yeah. You can see that the main female character and the main male character have these mixed emotions in what they're seeing, and I'm curious to see what they're reacting to. And I think there's going to be a great story here.
And I'm excited, and especially at the end you have, the huge reveal with Harrison Ford, Han Solo, and Chewbacca. And Chewbacca has his gun out, and Han says, "We're home." And so to me, it's like, why does he have his gun out? Like, what were they doing right before this?
Because they look happy.
Yeah, like, he looks happy, but he's also kind of a little out of breath. So it's like, where's home? I mean, we've talked about this many times. A lot of people are saying, is it like a double meaning?
Yeah.
Where in the movie he says we're home, like he gets back home, and he says that, or is it them doing like a fan service of Han Solo saying we're home because, I mean, Star Wars is back.
This trailer's got a lot of elements to it, and I'm going to ask you what you think it meant, and I'm going to tell you what I think it meant and where they were. I'm curious what you think about that. Mm-hmm. But as you said, I think it's actually a two-way street. I don't think it's meant to be taken one way or the other. The same way when Luke's monologue says, you have that power too.
Yeah.
Well, that was a sample from
the third
Return of the Jedi, but actually, if you listen closely, his intonation and his voice sounds the same age, but it sounds different. So I'm wondering if it was Mark Hamill doing an impression of himself as a younger person, because he does that. Insane. He can do that. Yeah. I've heard him do it before with the Tashi Station line, and it's funny how much he can impersonate his younger self.
Yeah.
But with Harrison Ford saying that, I think it's also kind of breaking the fourth wall, meaning us as collectively as Star Wars fans, we are home. We're being brought back home. Yeah. I'm curious what you think, or where you think they are.
I have no clue, because, I mean, you've read more of the EU stuff, which is the extended universe, for those who don't know. And I know that they came out and said it wasn't canon, but they also said that they're not ruling anything out. So if they want to dabble and take stuff from the canon, from the EU, they can. But for all intents and purposes right now, the EU is not part of the Star Wars universe. And so, I mean, they could be anywhere. I don't know Han Solo's homeworld.
Corellia.
So they might be back there. It might be where they live now. I mean, there's just all these things.
Yeah.
I mean, Jakku might be the new planet. It might be the place that they have their house.
Interesting, yeah.
Yeah.
Do you want to know what I think?
Yeah.
Okay.
That's part of the show.
Well, I know that, but I'm just curious. I'm just trying to make conversation here. Anyways, what I think is when he says we're home, my guess is that they hadn't been on the Falcon for a long time. That's what I think. Because they're on the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
And I'm guessing they had to do something to get in there. And they probably had to kill some guys and,
I never even thought about that.
And maybe kick some butt to get in there.
Yeah. Okay, remember? Which would explain the gun and the...
Do you remember it wasn't a space battle, but it was spaceships battling in those wrecked ships?
Yeah, it had the TIE... Okay.
Suppose the Falcon had been taken at some point, and they're getting it back. That would be a great side plot.
Well, he wasn't in it for Return of the Jedi, right?
No, but we don't know what happens in between that.
Yeah.
I had heard a rumor a while back that the subplot was going to be getting back the Millennium Falcon. But I don't know if that's why I think that the Millennium Falcon means home and we had to do something.
No, that would make sense.
That would be sweet. It'd be really cool because, they definitely look like they had done something to get there. They both have their guns out.
Yeah, and then he's, like I said, they looked weary, like they just did something.
They're like, oh, this was worth it.
Yeah.
That's what it feels like.
Yeah, and to him, the Millennium Falcon is home because he's a bounty hunter, so he just goes around.
Smuggler,
sorry. He had a bounty hunter.
He had a bounty hunter on his tail for a long time.
Smuggler, and so, he lives on the ship.
Yeah, I mean, when I think of Han and Chewie, I don't really think of any planet. I tend to think of the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah, that does make sense.
Chewie and Han both spent most of their lives away from their home planets because Chewie's home planet, Kashyyyk, I mean, ever since he owed Han Solo that life debt when Han saved him, he hadn't been on his home planet. Han hadn't been on Corellia since he was a kid.
Yeah.
Their home is the Millennium Falcon.
Yeah.
Makes perfect sense that he said that, but it's, one can speculate how they got there.
Yeah.
That's interesting to me. And what a great way to close the trailer.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was... the clincher for a lot of people was seeing Harrison Ford, and of course that is Peter Mayhew in that costume as Chewbacca.
Yeah.
And if you look closely, there are a couple gray hairs on the Chewbacca costume.
Yeah.
It's hard to see, but the costume looks very much like the Episode 4 Chewbacca costume because his hair is not falling forward and messy like in the second two original episodes. His hair is looks like all brushed and combed back, and it reminds me so much of Episode 4. I almost said Episode 1.
Oh, no.
But, yeah, it just got me excited. It made me feel like a kid again, because I watched those movies so much, and I knew them front ways and back, and I can't really say anything has made me as excited as this has in a long time, as far as media is concerned. As far as movies, music, books, anything, comics. Mm-hmm. This Star Wars trailer was a sumptuous meal, if you will.
Yeah, I think, to me, the way you felt about Star Wars was probably how I felt about the first Avengers trailer.
Yeah.
And for me, I know a lot of people would say, and I know, Avengers is probably, in a lot of people's book, not as good as Star Wars. And yes, I might be in that book in some areas. Mm-hmm. But the end of the trailer was all of them in a circle, like getting all their battle poses ready. Mm-hmm. And to me, that was the moment of my dreams have been satisfied. Like everything about my comic book life was just all met. Right.
Do you want to know one thing? I've asked this a lot. One thing that I was always a little sad about is Captain America never yelled "Avengers Assemble."
He didn't, but they weren't Avengers at the time.
Avengers Assemble.
They weren't Avengers at the time.
I know, but they will be soon. We'll see how Age of Ultron turns out. I'm sure it's going to be epic.
Oh yeah, next week,
and that's going to be next week's episode.
Yeah, so from now on,
we're going to change the format up just a little bit.
Yeah, so I think one of the cool things we can do is have a central theme, like an overarching theme, so that way we can dive more, especially like today, if we just talked and had a good discussion about like a central theme, instead of having these different points where we talk about them a little, but we don't get really into it, especially with news and stuff. And we'll probably bring up news here and there, but we'll probably have it all in like one big package.
It makes sense that we did the first show that way because there was a lot of news that week.
Oh gosh,
so much. The Deadpool and the X-Men news. Yeah. And Marvel had a lot of news in particular.
Yeah.
There is some new stuff. I mean, the Fantastic Four trailer. We'll touch on all that.
Yeah.
The Batman v Superman trailer I really want to talk about right now.
But I'm making him wait.
He's making me wait. because next Batman and Superman are two of my favorite things alongside Star Wars. Mm-hmm. And I'd love to compare them and contrast them, but I'm going to be forced to wait until 2 weeks from now.
Yeah, so next week is pretty much just going to be since it's Avengers, it's not really a central Marvel character, it's just going to be a Marvel theme.
Sounds good to me.
So we'll talk about all the different things happening with Marvel movies and Marvel comics and stuff like that.
Perhaps we'll even do a trade of the week, and maybe we can do Siege or something interesting like that. Because
we can do that.
I haven't read that in a while.
There's also that Ultron comic I just got.
Mm-hmm. Also, did you want to briefly touch on how the Darth Vader series that Marvel's been putting out has been going?
It's been really good. Issue 4 came out, I want to say 2 weeks ago. And it was... So in the last issue, it was... the new character, I forget her name.
That was the last issue?
That was issue 3.
Okay, yeah. That's the last one
where she builds him like 2 robots. Mm-hmm. The R2 looking robot and the R4 looking robot and the 3PO looking robot. Mm-hmm. And so this one has them actually doing stuff with the robots, and the robots are pretty cool and insane.
Really?
And like horrible and evil, which is totally fits Darth Vader. And so it's been really good. I mean, this week we have the Star Wars comic that came out that I forgot to get.
The regular title came out?
Yeah.
I didn't know that. I better pick that up.
I'll probably pick it up tomorrow.
But
read it.
What I wanted to say is I've been reading a lot of expanded universe Star Wars and really digging into it. I've been through 5 books now in the past, 8 months.
Yeah.
And I'm really loving all this lore that there is, and it just makes me think, even though they're not going to use all of it for the new episodes, they can take minor details from it, and they can always reference things, because these new ones take place years and years, decades in the future.
Like 20 or 30 years.
I think, even if some people might call it fan service, but who cares, if they were to briefly state that Luke was, Luke once had a love interest named Mara Jade.
Well, we don't know. We don't know who he's talking to in the.
We don't know who he's talking to
because he talks about the Force runs Steve and my family.
Yeah.
So he could be talking about his kid. To his kid, or he could be talking to like Leia's kid.
That's true, and I'm really excited to see that because I'd like to see them take a little bit of the expanded universe, but I'm excited to see them go their own direction with it and create. It's just more Star Wars for us to enjoy.
Oh yeah,
because everyone can go read the books, like the Thrawn trilogy, which is just incredible, and that takes place right after Return of the Jedi. But we also now have this whole new J.J. Abrams saga that's going to be amazing, and I can already tell it's going to be amazing.
Yeah,
it's like the honest trailer said, "Come on, AJ, or come on, JJ. There's no way you can do worse than this."
Oh gosh, no, really, I don't. It is my opinion that you can't do worse than the prequels. You can't. You can do as bad, but you can't do worse.
Yeah,
because they were pretty bad.
Yeah, I mean, I still love certain parts of them.
Yeah, I mean,
certain fight scenes, certain little clips.
Ewan McGregor's Obi-Wan Kenobi is one of the best things about that series. Mm-hmm. Like, I loved... He's still, to this day, is one of my favorite characters. I would say he is my favorite character.
Ben Kenobi / Obi-Wan Kenobi is one of my favorite characters, too.
He's great.
Actually, that's one thing that made me sad about the expanded universe is Obi-Wan more or less becomes one with the Force, and he never speaks to Luke again. That is sad, and it's the one missing component that I was I'm
happy that he's able to move on instead of being stuck with Luke.
Yeah, but still, I mean, I don't know. I'm really excited for this movie. The trailer was fantastic.
Everyone go see it if you haven't. If you haven't, I'm sorry because we just spoiled the whole trailer to you.
Yeah, I mean...
But go watch it anyways.
Go watch it anyways. I suppose we should have shouted spoiler alert, but...
On a trailer? It's their fault.
If you're geeks and you haven't seen the new Star Wars
you don't have to pay for it.
Yeah. Well, anyways, this was Origins and Adaptations, Episode 2.
Episode dos.
Andrew, are we out?
We are out.
Thank you very much for listening. Tune in next week. It will be a Marvel-themed episode.
It will be marvelous.